We've designed and built 8 buildings, most of which are housing, but we've got our activity center and other buildings. So Hillside Terrace and Fairway Woods are our newest buildings. And each of those buildings we've learned a little bit more.
The model that I was introduced to was a hierarchical model. John's here in the office. You got a problem, come to John. John will help you deal with the problem or he'll fix it. It's a model that I've since learned does not work, and that's when I noticed. I got up one morning and had a bit of an epiphany and realized, wait a minute, hold it here. I've got 26 helpers here. It isn't just me, it's us. It's the people who are involved in this community, whether you're a tenant, whether you're staff. And I remember going to work that day with a whole new idea of what this program was about.
Kool-Aid couldn't be in a position it is today if you hadn't had that whole process of success, of being an organization that people, you're solid, you're reliable, and you know if you go to Kool-Aid to get something done, it'll get done.
Well, essentially Next Steps is to try and better serve the needs of the folks that we see at the shelters that will only use us once or intermittently. So Next Steps is a try at putting more resources into people sooner when they reach the shelter to try and get them out into permanent housing.
We're on the second floor here of the Next Step shelter. We have a 3-bedroom, another 3-bedroom, then there's a 2-bedroom and a 2-bedroom, so it works out to 10 beds on this floor. There's one bathroom up here, and this is the male bathroom. The bookshelf here, this was set up by Project Literacy. One of the aims we had of this kind of environment too was to input lots of community programming into the house while people are here, as well as help them facilitate their own care plans and goals. So we have Project Literacy, street nurses, supports like that coming in on a regular basis.
I think what makes Next Steps unique in shelters is the fact that we are a small shelter and with a really good staff-to-client ratio. And what that allows us to do is spend a lot more one-on-one time with clients and search out a lot more of the unique supports that they require. And you're not going to get that time in a larger ratio of staff to client that you have in larger shelters. Also, what works here is that we're very kind of open-ended on the length of staying. We have a lot more time to set those supports in place. Clients have to be in a pretty stable frame of mind to come here. They can't be using any substances while they're here. They need to have some basic supports in place and to have started working on a plan to show that they're ready to move on to a next step.
I think just bringing the fact that our homeless are our homeless population, and we have not only an obligation to do something about it, and it's not only the right thing to do something about it, and we would not only want it to be done if it was us in those shoes, but economically it just makes more sense. And that part has probably changed in the last 8 years or so, is the sense that people are realizing that it's actually cheaper to do the right thing than it is to continue to do what we've been doing. We are really not interested in designing more shelters and building larger shelters. Ironically, we are doing that because we have too many people in this existing building, and we want to do better with the people, and we want to reduce the time that people stay in shelters. But that means we have to have those other resources available. You have to have housing to move to out of the shelters. So the solution to homelessness is homes, not shelters. But every community is always going to have a shelter because things happen. At best, shelters would be a very short-term stay where you can access the resources to get your life stabilized quickly.
Well, I was on the streets for the last couple of weeks, and that's when I really fell down hard, and they got me back in here so I don't have to be on the street anymore. So they're encouraging me to to get help that I need. So I went and got all the paperwork done today, and they're helping me out, giving me a place to stay, even though I'm on my 2 weeks out now. They let me back in here, so I'm not on the streets, so they're helping a lot.
I've been on my own since I was about 12 years old. My parents were deceased, and I came out from Newfoundland to the East Coast, or West Coast here, and I've been living in Vancouver for 25 years since I was 16, and I was on the streets in Vancouver. And I moved to Victoria about 7 years ago. The past 6 months I've been at 2 hostels, and I've been over here at StreetLink, and it's good. It's a good experience for me. It's a humbling experience.
It is a sanctuary. It's good. You're fed. You can clean yourself up. One day, the staff might be dealing. 1 hour, they might be dealing with people that have been through the mental institutions and stuff. Next thing, they might be dealing with a guy from the street. And so, I mean, I'm not exactly sure how they hire here, but I could never do their job. I do actually praise them for being strong enough to try to do the job.
Mike, here you go.
Thank you.
The stats today are still roughly true then, that about 1/3 of the folks that we see through the shelter system will use us once, and then they'll move on. And we're likely to never see them again. It was simply a blip in their lives. It was a short period of time where they needed to stay with us. There's another 1/3 of the folks that we see that we might see 2 or 3 times. We might see for a while, and then they'll go away for a few months, and that might not work out, and we'll see again, and we might see them a couple of times over the course of a year and a half. Then there's a smaller percentage of folks, and they're folks that, well, we consider them our Gold Club members. There's folks that we will see for probably a huge chunk of time. If we do our job well, and if they work with us, and we're lucky, we'll get them into a supported permanent housing situation that will work well for them.
I mean, I ended up here through, my own fault. I got evicted from low-income housing, and it came at just the worst time possible. I just need to decompress. In being in this atmosphere all the time, you start going a little crazy. And I'm bipolar too, and I don't take any medication for it. So I've been going through kind of a manic stage the last few days. Like a chicken with his head cut off, running around like crazy. But I'm really looking forward to moving into this house and getting away from here.
According to our last homelessness count, we counted about 1,250 people absolutely homeless. So 1,500 units would pretty much solve homelessness in our community. 1,500 units with adequate supports. That's not a big deal. That should be readily achievable. That should be a percentage of the next 15 buildings that are built, perhaps. There's a variety of ways that we can do this quite quickly. It's more the will, and it's more the awareness. It's more people seeing that their tax dollars can be better spent. Instead of just maintaining homelessness, they can be better spent on actually solving homelessness.